Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, I just want to talk about how I never got to experience diversity growing up. And I know I've made multiple videos about this sort of topic already, but I want this video to just be all specifically about how I personally never got to experience diversity in my upbringing in life compared to most other people. And I want to start out this video by saying that if it would have been totally up to me, and if I would have had the choice and decision myself, even since I was a little kid, even in my very early childhood, I would have wanted to live in a state, or at least city, that had a very high percentage in population of Black Americans, or Black people in general. And I would have wanted to have been raised in a Black neighborhood, as I wish I could have been, and wish more than anything I could have had that experience growing up, but unfortunately I didn't, which has done nothing but caused me pain, agony, misery, crippling depression, stress, suicidal thoughts, jealousy, envy, anger, hatred, and just anguish, torment, and torture emotionally and mentally. I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest and real here, those are all the emotions that I literally feel that I never had that experience growing up since I was a little kid as I wanted to have. And so not only do I wish I could have been raised in a all-Black neighborhood, and me pretty much being the only white person, including I guess the rest of my siblings and my parents, or that at least we would have been one of the few white people who would have lived in an all-Black or predominantly Black neighborhood. And since kindergarten, I would have really loved to have gone to an inner city public school that would have either been all Black or predominantly Black. And either if I would have been the only white student attending and going to like whatever inner city public elementary school I would have gone to, regardless of the state or city that I would have lived in, I would have wanted the same for, of course, middle school as well as high school. Even if I would have still dropped out in the 9th grade, which I don't even know if I would have still chose to drop out. I mean, I probably still would have, if I'm going to be honest here, but I mean, I still went to 9th grade, and I still went to school for a big chunk of my life, most of my childhood, and some of my teen years. And I would have loved it if I would have had that experience going to an all-Black or predominantly Black elementary school, middle school, and high school, because I not only would have wanted to have increased my chances of getting with a Black girl of my dreams, especially if I would have been pretty much only surrounded by Black people, the experience I wish I could have had growing up since I was a little kid. But also, I wanted to get really used to that certain specific race of people, that certain specific group of people. In other words, I wanted to really get to know those people inside and out, and their culture as much as I possibly could, like on a very deep and personal level. And those are the kind of relationships that, even since I was a teenager and started going through shit in my life and suffering as I have up until this point. I have longed for and desired for relationships that would be on a very deep and personal level, whether with men or women. I mean, those, honest to God, are the kinds and types of relationships that I am attracted to, that I long for, that I crave, that I desire, because I think those are the best. Getting to know people on a very deep and personal level, inside and out, especially because most people in this world are fake. They walk around and go throughout life wearing a damn mask and pretending to be something or someone they're not. And I wish more people were real. I wish more people were open and honest. I wish more people were deep, like me, for example. But sadly, there's not. And when it comes to someone who's so brutally honest and straightforward, like someone like me, for example, it's looked at as a crazy thing, or a weird thing, or a strange, bizarre thing that should not exist. Like it's like we try to make an enemy of being open and honest and straightforward, being deep, expressing our emotions that we feel, regardless of what the reasons we feel the emotions that we're going through for whatever reason. Like, I think it would just be so much healthier if we lived in a society and culture where we as human beings were able to be honest, be open, be real with how we truly deeply feel every single day, every week, every month, every year, and so on and so forth. Except we're not. It's like we have made an enemy of that, or have made that evolve into becoming a weird thing, a strange thing, something that will just never be accepted. That is just too insane to ever be that kind of person. And if you are, then you're going to be looked at as a crazy person, as a psycho, as psychotic, as nuts, as whatever, because most people just aren't like that. Most people aren't straightforward, open, and honest, and real, and deep with the way they actually feel. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but also, I would have wanted, growing up, even since I was a kid, to have gone to an all-black church in an inner city, as well as, regardless of where I would have chose to work when I would have grown up and came into my teen years, that whichever job I would have chose to work at, that I would have been in the workforce also surrounded by many black people. Since that is the race that I am mostly interested in, mostly fascinated with, mostly obsessed with, fixated with, addicted to, the race of people that I have yearned and longed and desired and craved to be with for so long, and it has crushed me to my core that I never got to have that experience growing up, that I never got to be surrounded by the people of that race or culture, if you will, even since I was a kid, to where I would have gotten used to it like I am to my family, and like I have been used to white people, since that's really the only race that I experienced that much in my life, personally at least, growing up. And that I would have just wanted to be accepted and welcomed into that race and into that culture as much as possible. And a lot of people think that one of my longings or desires would have been to have been a hoodlum or to be a gangster or whatever, which is not entirely true, but at the same time, it's not like there aren't things that I don't love or am attracted to about that sort of hood ghetto culture. Like, for example, I love their grammar. I love just the fact that they have their own unique, separate way of talking, way of using or saying certain words that most other people don't say like Black Americans do in this country. And I also love the fact that they throw up gang signs or whatever. Like, I think that's cool, and I've always thought that was just an all-around dope thing. And I also have been attracted to the fact that when it comes to them being in gangs, it's kind of like their family. Like, regardless if you look at it as a bad or good thing, like, I understand why many people do in fact join gangs, because it's like a family, especially to people who grew up either in a dysfunctional home where they didn't feel like they had a loving, caring family, or literally and physically did not have a family growing up, didn't have parents, didn't have siblings, and they long to be a part of a group, be a part of something, be a part of some sort of family. And that's at least one of the main reasons why some people do end up joining gangs. And I can't say I blame them or judge them or act like I don't understand at least that certain reason right there why some of them do in fact choose to join gangs. And it's not like I'm gonna say that if I hadn't been raised in that sort of race myself and brought up in that culture, that I myself would not have joined in some sort of gang or clique, if you will. I probably would have, if I'm gonna be honest here. And you know, it's not like I would have necessarily wanted to commit all the crimes that many of them do, but even when it comes to that, I still don't blame and judge them for even doing those things, because they feel like they have to. I mean, they feel that their actions or whatever, and why they are doing whichever crimes they're doing, are justified, because they were raised and brought up in such a shitty, terrible, awful, tragic environment and culture and lifestyle or whatever, that many of them just fall victims to that lifestyle. And I honestly do not blame or judge anyone who does. And I'm, again, not going to act or pretend like if I wasn't raised in that culture that I myself would not have joined that sort of lifestyle, because I probably would have, along with so many other Black people. Even if I would have still had parents in my family growing up, it's not like my family was the best or that loving, caring, and understanding about me or any of my other siblings, especially when I had way too many to begin with. And I mean, my family is extremely dysfunctional. If I'm at least gonna put it short and simple, I will admit that my family is probably one of the most dysfunctional families in the country of America. And for that reason even alone, I probably would have joined some gang or some clique or whatever if I would have been raised in some inner city where there was a lot of Black people or a lot of diversity in general. And you know, it's kind of interesting about me, because I am not even that upset or disappointed about not experiencing or interacting with that many different races of people growing up. Like, I'm not that hurt about really never experiencing Mexican Americans that much, or Muslim Americans that much, or Indian Americans, or Asian Americans, or Native Americans growing up since I was a kid. Not like I would not have wanted to experience those races of people or interact with them or even make friends with them growing up as a kid. I would have loved that chance, a privilege and experience growing up since I was a kid. But when it comes to the race of people that I am mostly attracted to, that I mostly yearn after and yearn to be with and to be a part of, and to just be connected with on a really like deep and personal level, are in fact Black Americans. And when it comes to the race of women that I am mostly attracted to very strongly, are Black women. And that is just how I feel personally, in my opinion and point of view. And I do find it interesting, though, and fascinating about me that I'm not, again, not that hurt about not really experiencing that much diversity growing up. Like, I would have loved to, or would have liked to, but if I didn't, I would not have been that sad about not having that experience. But when it comes to the certain race of people that I am very hurt about not experiencing growing up, are in fact Black Americans. And like I said earlier in this video, that if it would have been up to me, if I would have had the choice and decision to have made, even since I was a little kid, like 3, 4, 5 years old, I would have wanted to have been raised in either a state that had the highest population or percentage of Black Americans as possible, or if it would have been a city, which I would have more so preferred, then I would have definitely wanted to live in a city with the most and highest population or percentage of Black Americans. But I didn't get that experience growing up. And it has crushed me to the core. And it has really torn me apart emotionally and mentally. And like I said, like, I wish I was raised in a all Black or predominantly Black neighborhood. I wish ever since kindergarten or elementary school, I went to all Black or predominantly Black schools, elementary school, middle school, and high school, even if I would have still chose to drop out in the 9th grade. And if I would have gotten a job in my teens, that I would have been in the workforce with and working alongside and amongst a lot of Black Americans. But I didn't have that experience. And of course, even since I was a kid, going to an all-Black church. Those are all the things that I wish I could have had growing up. But now, in my life, knowing that I'm 23, almost 24 years old, I'll be 24 on February 12 of next year in 2021, and it honestly breaks my heart, if I'm going to be honest here. It breaks my heart always having to realize the fact that I am 23, but also am almost 24, and I still haven't experienced diversity pretty much at all. And also realizing how much pain and suffering it caused me for so many years, especially knowing that I wanted so badly to experience diversity ever since I was 15 in 2012. And I tried to tell my parents of how badly and how much I longed to and yearned to move back to Grand Rapids, at least, even as a teenager, and they never understood my feelings. I mean, no offense to my parents or anything, but anything that I ever tried to open up to them about, diversity or anything else, not growing up with materialistic things like most people have, not experiencing diversity growing up like most people have, not being raised in a city like most people have, they never understood anything I ever tried to open up to them about. And I tried for years. I mean, believe it or not, but I tried to be as real and open and honest and straightforward with both of my parents on equal levels as possible. I cried in front of them for years. Especially as a teenager, I cried. Especially when I would talk and go on for a long enough time talking about something that has made me suffer so much in my life, or that I feel has made me suffer so much, or something that I felt like I had been deprived and underprivileged of, or something that I felt like I had been robbed of, or missed out on, excluded from, alienated from, or whatever. I would eventually break down and start crying. Like, my voice would start cracking, and I would just start breaking down and start crying. Sometimes even in front of my other siblings. And even when it comes to my other siblings, they don't understand my pain and suffering. Because they're not like me. They don't have the same mindset that I have myself. They don't have the same interests. They don't have the same obsessions. They're not fixated on the same things. They don't long after the things I have for so long in my life personally. They haven't yearned for certain specific things that I have myself for so long. They haven't really wanted to or cared about experiencing that much growing up that I myself wish I could have. And, you know, the other thing I want to say is that, you know, when it comes to me also in a sort of way wishing that I was a part of even the hood ghetto culture, one of the main reasons I wish I was, and I'm going to be honest here, it's because I see that there is a lot of trouble that goes on in that culture, in that environment. And I see that a lot of black girls are victims of heinous crimes. Like they're murdered, sometimes even by other black girls or black men. They're drugged and raped by black men, or just raped in general. They're sometimes even beat by some black men. Not all or most, but some. And some, which is enough to make news or make headlines or to get the attention of other people, including myself. And sometimes some of these black girls in these cultures or environments get treated like absolute dog shit, even by some black men, by being put in freezers and freezing to death, like either walk-in freezers, or if they're in a grocery store or something, in like those coolers or whatever you would call them that have like ice cream inside them or whatever. Sometimes black men, some of them, will shove a black girl head first or whatever and try to stuff her body in a cooler inside a grocery store as if she's nothing, as if she's not of importance or value, or as if these certain specific particular black men don't love or care about or even respect their own women. Like they're not even worried about not protecting and defending and looking out for them, even though that culture and environment is extremely dangerous, even coming from someone who never lived in that environment himself. And they also, and I've seen videos of this, some black girls sometimes, not always, but sometimes, and even the fact that it happens sometimes is tragic enough because it should never happen, but sadly it does. And some black girls will be thrown in dumpsters, like those big dumpsters like outside of apartment complexes or whatever in cities, by, in fact, certain specific black men who treat their own women like garbage for whatever reason. And it honestly breaks my heart. And another thing that breaks my heart is the fact that even when it comes to black girls and other black girls grown up and raised in the same culture, lifestyle, environment, whatever, they're even at each other's throats. Like, obviously, like, everyone of every race gets into street fights or whatever, but when it comes to specifically black Americans raised in the hood, I've never seen as much fighting and as much like glorification or glamorizing of street fights amongst the black community, or specifically the black hood community here in America, where there are so many videos all over the internet of black teenage girls always fighting and beating the shit out of other black girls, other black teenage girls. And sometimes it honestly looks like they're trying to literally kill each other, as if they either hate each other so much or hate themselves so much. And I feel like it's a combination of both. And it makes me sad that even when it comes to black girls in the hood, they don't even really look out for and protect and defend other black girls and try to have other black girls' backs so they can, like, be a strong force together if they're connected, or if they're united, or if they were to come together, but they don't. Like, when it comes to that certain specific culture, environment, and lifestyle, black girls even hate other black girls to death, it seems like. And black men hate other black men to death in that culture and environment. And it's heartbreaking. And I just feel like if I could have been raised in that environment, that just maybe, I could have prevented some of these things from happening. Like, I personally would have loved to have had the opportunity and chance to have protected and defended as many black girls as I possibly could, and looked out for as many of them as I possibly could. And same with black men. I would have wanted to have been friends with as many of them as I possibly could, to protect and defend as many, to look out for as many as possible anytime that I was able to, and like keep like in close contact with them, or maybe even live near them or something like that. And I mean, that's just honestly what I wish I could have done. And even if I wasn't raised in a city since I was a little kid, if I was going to be raised in, say, a rural area or a small or medium-sized town, I definitely then wish that I would have been raised in a southern state, if that would have been the case. Because at least when it comes to small, medium-sized towns in southern states, they at least have a lot of black people. Whereas if you go to the northern states, you're only going to find black Americans in the cities in those northern states. You're not going to find them in small or medium-sized towns that are going to be predominantly white, or mostly white in other words. And if you do, they'll probably just be visiting, or like, I don't know, stopping through that town or something. But they probably don't even live there. And even if they do, that's still hardly any of them. And when it comes to rural areas, there are no like community of people. There is no like socializing going on in a rural area, because people in a rural area want to be left alone. They want to be isolated. They want to be alienated from the rest of civilization from the rest of humanity. They want to be disconnected from communities of people, whereas I myself, at least when I was a kid growing up, and especially as a teenager, longed and yearned for being with as much and as many people as possible. And I think deep down inside, I was an extrovert. Even since birth, I do think that my true self is an extrovert because I love talking. I mean, I could talk for hours and hours on end. I could talk for days, weeks, months, years. I love talking, as you can all clearly and obviously tell. I enjoy it. I love expressing and showing my true self, my real self. I love being open and honest with whoever I'm talking to. And my family is annoyed with me. And I can't say I blame them because I live with them 24/7. I know I drive them berserk. I know I drive them crazy. I know I drive them insane because I complain a lot and whine a lot and moan a lot because I didn't have that many opportunities and experiences growing up. And I honestly think it's extremely unfair that I never had the same opportunities and experiences growing up since I was a kid that most people, especially in America, had themselves, because I mean, I should have been able to have those same experiences and opportunities because it would have only been fair. It would have only been right and equal that I would have had the same experiences, life experiences, and opportunities growing up since I was a child, like most people have themselves. But I didn't. And I honestly feel like I've been left out. I feel like I've been excluded. I feel like I've been alienated. I feel like I've been deprived and underprivileged of so many things, which obviously I have. I feel like I have been robbed, as much as to have been robbed of having so many of these awesome, amazing, incredible, wonderful, interesting life experiences growing up. Because now that I'm almost 24 years old, I don't even want them anymore because, you know, if I were even in the physical presence of any Black Americans, honest to God, I would feel nothing but torment and torture emotionally and mentally, knowing that I should have been able to interact with, experience, and make friends with Black Americans, as many as I possibly could, even since I was a little kid growing up. As so many other white people get the privilege, the chance, the opportunity, and experience to have themselves, which is incredibly unfair. And when I'm ever in the physical presence of any Black Americans at all, any time, any place, anywhere, which is severely rare, I feel uneasy, I feel nervous, I feel like I'm cringing on the inside. Hell, I don't even feel worthy to be in their presence because, I mean, I'm gonna just be honest here. I idolize Black people. I look up to Black people. I know for an all-around fact that I have been deeply and powerfully moved and inspired and influenced by Black Americans, and that I kind of put them up on a pedestal. I practically worship you guys, and it just makes it all the more painful that I never got to interact with and experience you people of that race growing up since I was a kid and a teenager, because knowing that I'm almost 24 years old in my life, if I ever were in your presence, or if you still wanted me to come to you guys, if I were even able to, or had any way to, I would just feel nothing but torment and torture and uneasy. I would feel nervous. I would be constantly cringing on the inside. I would feel unworthy to be in your presence because of certain whacked out, messed up, fucked up belief systems I have about you and how I stereotype a lot of you, and that I even, as much as to hate most of you nowadays, and am strongly jealous and envious of you guys and angry at you, and because I'm so frustrated and full of rage, venomous rage, because I never got to experience and interact with you people of that certain particular race growing up. Because I know if I had, and if I would have gotten used to you guys, I would not be obsessed with you guys. I would not be addicted to you. I would not be fixated on your race or any of your cultures, or idolize you that much, or put you guys up on a pedestal or anything for that sort, because you would have just been any other normal human being or people to me that I would have experienced growing up. Like, I'm not obsessed with white people. I'm not addicted to them. I'm not fixated on white people. I don't idolize them. I'm not interested in or fascinated in white people or our bullshit culture, because I don't even know what culture there is that white people themselves have to be that proud of anyways. And I mean, I feel terrible, and I'm in constant pain 24/7. Constant pain, non-stop. Like, and it sucks knowing that the only time that I really even got to see Black Americans for that long of a period of time, or that like much of an extended experience, was online, on the internet, virtually, which is not the same as experiencing and interacting with people in real life. And you know, it's gotten so bad between white people and black people anyway, especially in modern times, so much to the point where I don't even know why I would want to still be with you guys, especially now more than ever. And that's another reason why I wish I could have interacted with you and experienced your race of people growing up as a kid, as I was in the 2000s. Like, at the beginning of the 2000s, I was 3. And at the end of the 2000s, in 2009, I was 12. I was a child for the whole 2000s generation and era. And then I still could have experienced you guys even in my teens, before times would have gotten too bad between white people and black people, because the mainstream media and liberal politicians and whatnot, it's like they have been pushing for a like all-out physical war between white people and black people. I mean, whenever you watch any mainstream media news channel, they're always talking about two races in particular: white people and black people, or vice versa, black people and white people. They don't really talk about other races of people that I personally have heard of or known of myself as much as they have white people and black people. And you know, it sucks because I even have some white friends online who have admitted to me, or that I simply know because of watching a video or hearing certain things they say or seeing comments of theirs, that they got to have friends or experience or interact with people of different races and cultures growing up since they were a kid, to the point they got used to it and it became normal to them because of how much they got used to it. Whereas I myself, even if I were to still somehow, some miraculous way, get with black Americans, and make friends with any of them, especially in person. In my mind, I would just think about the fact that I have black friends, or if I had a black girlfriend or wife, I would think about the fact that I have a black girlfriend or wife, and I would probably think about their skin color too much, even just on the inside, and it would make me feel guilty, embarrassed, ashamed, and humiliated in myself. And that is another reason why I wish I would have experienced your race of people growing up. But I didn't, and that is the reality of things in my life personally, and I hate the fact. It just frustrates me, and it rages me, and it makes me full of anger, hatred, jealousy, envy, crippling depression, stress, anguish, torment, torture, agony, all that shit that I never got to experience that certain specific race of people growing up. That so many other white people got the chance, got the opportunity, got the privilege and experience of interacting with growing up since they were kids, to the point they're not obsessed with their race or fixated on them or their skin color. They just think of them as any other normal, everyday, average, ordinary human beings or people. But for me, it's too late. It's not like I don't know that people from other races other than white people aren't human beings or aren't people. But sometimes I feel and think of you people that I never got to experience as aliens to me, as literally different species all around of something, maybe or perhaps even from another planet. And if you think about it, I do have a point in a twisted sort of way, because, I mean, think about how disconnected we were from each other growing up. And even think about more so the fact you guys didn't even know I existed. I mean, I at least knew that so many of you guys existed, even growing up since I was a kid and teenager. But, like, none of you knew I existed, or was somebody alive living on this planet. And knowing that we had lived so far apart from each other, miles apart, or areas apart, or states apart, just kind of proves even more so my point that we kind of live on different planets. Like, we're aliens to each other. I mean, you guys are like aliens to me, complex and complicated, because I'm not used to really any other people of any other race other than white people, especially black Americans here in America. And I don't know how else to put it. And I mean, even talking about this, as you can all see, it pains me. And it almost makes me tear up, because it has crushed me to the core this much that I didn't get to experience black people growing up. As much as I wish I could have. As much as I have experienced white people, I wish I could have experienced black Americans that much, to that extreme extent and degree. But I didn't. And whenever I think of and see any white people who had black friends growing up since they were kids or teens, it enrages me, it frustrates me, it pisses me the fuck off. Or white people who got to be raised in cities, especially popular ones, since birth, experiencing so much diversity and many other life experiences and opportunities for that matter. I just don't feel like I ever belonged in this country. or in this world for that matter. But let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.